I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man, that is a sad clown.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha packs, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom.
Shout out to our sponsors. Major Team Mortgage, Omaha Laser Dentistry, Exclusively Eye Care, Liberty Core Real Estate, Avior Wealth Management, and Apex Men's Clinic. We appreciate their support.
Yo, Gloom listeners, it's the Plague, and today I'm talking about getting your finances as fit as your physique. Our very own F3 Omaha brother Jean-Claude, aka Michael Pfluger at Avior Wealth Management, specializes in building personalized financial plans. He understands the journey you walk in life as a man of faith, safeguarding your family and creating a legacy. Jean-Claude is ready to help you plan your finances with intention so that you can live with purpose. And that's just the beginning when you work with the Avior Wealth team. Visit avior.com/F3. That's AVIOR.com/F3 and see how Michael can guide your financial journey today.
Now let's get back to the gloom.
And we're back. Excited to get this guy's story out there on the Gloom. I know I think, and I know he'll tell us about this, but I think he's the official creator of the Love Run down at the steel mill in Sarpy, and just a phenomenal leader. And I just have loved getting to know this guy over the last few years. Excited for you all to hear his story. I got our man Sweet Roll, and I think it's Hawaiian style maybe is the style we're going with, but good to see you, man. And where we like to start off is just kind of that EH story. What was that journey like? Who EH'd you? If you remember the first workout, would love to hear the details there. And then how did we land on the name Sweet Roll?
Yeah, thanks, Blake. Pleasure to be here. Listen to a bunch of these glooms, so it's always for someone that does a lot of windshield time and travel, it's always nice to have a podcast to fall back to.
Yeah.
Listen to him tell their stories, so it's great to be with you today. Too bad Pony can't be here. I feel like, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It goes back for me. I was on Twitter one day, and I've been on Twitter for a long time before F3, and I saw Safe Ride on there doing the name around. I was like, what is this cheesy dude up to? If you know Safe Ride, he can be a little cheesy.
Yeah.
But I just was like intrigued by him. Who is this group and why does he have a name? But just, I'd see it randomly here and there. And then didn't think much of it. It looked like they were downtown, and I lived in Papillion. So it wasn't until I noticed Baby Shark on the name around it too. And, me and Baby Shark grew up together. So I'm asking him about it. He's trying to EH me for at least a year. And the biggest thing for me, I like to work out. I like the challenges. I wasn't intimidated at all. It was just the wake up, the early morning.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of had a routine of going to bed. I'm a bit of a night owl, so 12:30 going to bed. So the idea of waking up at 5 or before was ludicrous at the time. But I kind of just had one of those situations or timing where, I just felt like I needed to make a change. And I thought like getting into a good routine, waking up early, working out would be a good way to start that. So funny story, because I didn't tell Baby Shark I was going to show up on a Thursday. I just thought, hey, I'll surprise him, not knowing that he doesn't go every single day. So I show up to the Sandlot. Luckily, Baby Shark was there. But he's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I just thought it'd be fun to show up. He goes, this is a running site, right? And I did not know that. And truth be told, I hadn't ran more than a mile in probably a decade before I showed up to the running AO. And so girl dad's in the queue, and he says, all right, guys, we're going to get some miles in. And I heard the miles plural, and I about walked back to my car. So we chain ran to the track there at the pit and got some miles in. And I think after that workout, I walked jogging back to the flag, and I don't think my quads were right for about 2-3 days after it.
Yeah.
But got in the circle. I knew about the naming. I asked Pete his name or Baby Shark his name, how he got it. So I knew it was coming. So I just kind of tried to prepare. I wore a Chiefs shirt. I'm a big Chiefs fan. I'm trying to talk about the Chiefs. I'm lucky, I didn't get Bronco or John Elway or something.
Yeah.
I think I told a story about how I live. I had my family had a place at Hawaiian Village, and so the word Hawaiian just
Hmm.
kind of stood out. And so it was Thomas that threw out sweet roll, Hawaiian sweet roll, and girl dad who was struggling to name me. I felt like I was in that circle for a while. I was like, all right, sweet roll. So
Nice.
that's how it came to be.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse, man. You could have gone, yeah,
Yeah,
all sorts of other ways. You got, I mean, ask Cyclone or any of the guys that are like their favorite team's rival, right?
exactly.
Oh
I want to
man.
get like Arrowhead or something. It could have been Broncos.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Come
So
on.
next time you got a buddy that's a Chiefs fan, tell him to wear a Broncos shirt, right? And then which
Yeah,
maybe they don't
exactly.
have one. Was the
Should have
steel
known.
mill around at that time? Like, could you have gone across the parking lot and hit a steel mill
No,
workout? No.
I started June of 21, and so I didn't do any research. I just showed up. I knew it was at 5:30 there, so um, the steel mill wasn't there for probably for about 7, 8 months after I started. So I was actually going to Battlefield on Thursday
Oh yeah.
to avoid the running at Sandlot for when I first started.
Yeah, heck yeah. What as you think about like your fitness journey, kind of up until that point, what had you been doing, or did you grow up playing sports, anything like that, or?
Yeah, I like to think of somewhat of an athlete. In high school, I played football, threw discus. As a kid, I was active in everything I could. I love sports, big sports fan. So, I was a big lifter for a long time. So, really wasn't a fan of cardio unless it was part of a sport. And so I would, go into like doing consistently going to the gym and pushing weight. And when I really get really into it and start lifting a lot, and then I would fall off. But I never really had someone I was going with all the time. So that was
Hmm.
kind of the story of my life after high school. Like hit that gym hard for a while, and then fall off and back and forth. Then you have kids and you don't go. There's no consistency there.
Yeah.
So yeah, before F3, it actually when the pandemic started. I kept doing my research and understanding that this was really affecting those that were um, obese and overweight and struggled. So I was like, well, I have all this time. I'm stuck at home. I have a Peloton machine upstairs that I've never used, and so I started getting on that thing religiously for about 6, 8 months and shed some pounds pretty quickly doing a lot of cardio that way.
Nice.
Kind of love doing that bike, and was doing that pretty consistently in decent shape until I started in F3. Which is funny too, because I thought I was in good shape, and then I tried to run, and I learned really quick that cycling on the indoor cycle and actually running outside is two way different things.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah. You kind of mentioned too that you were maybe at a point in your life where you were ready for a change or ready for consistency. Do you mind sharing with us maybe what was going on at that time, or?
Yeah, I guess to be a little vulnerable, I had a argument with the M
Mm.
the night before, and nothing crazy, but it was just one of those things where I need to kind of hold myself accountable and look in the mirror and just to try to be more consistent, really communicate better, be more consistent. And so I thought, like I said, a great start is to get up early and get that done and out of the way. I think like a lot of us were um, when you really get kind of hooked on working out. It's like
Mhm.
a priority, and you get kind of anxious and mad if you don't get it in. And then when you have kids, it's so hard to do that. Like I don't know if I'd work out at all if I wasn't waking up at 5 in the morning. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of a combination of things of I need to work out, I need to be better. I trust Baby Shark. He loves this group, and so combination of things for me to finally say yes. All right, let's go to bed a little earlier, maybe drink one less beer, and get up and go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you say that. What's interesting is like I think there's this idea that prioritizing yourself is selfish, right? And so then you start to like prioritize everybody else first, but if you don't get yourself right, then it's hard to serve and do all the other things you got to do, and I think it's just it's hard, right? Because you don't want to feel selfish by, taking that time to work out. But I think if, at least for me, sometimes if I don't work out, I'm not effective anywhere else in my life. So
Yeah,
it's tough.
it's so true, but it's difficult to have that conversation with your anthem.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I need this for me and my mental.
Yeah.
So you got to navigate that, carefully. But it's absolutely true for
Yeah.
everyone. So,
Yeah, that's been I think ever since F3, even before, it's like that conversation you have it regularly, right? And you're sort of always talking, okay, like how can we be flexible on both sides? But I love it. And thanks for sharing that. That's, I think so many of us are, our families really are what motivate us. And so we got to listen, right? When those people we love are kind of nudging us a little bit. But well, curious, kind of on this first F journey for you, did you post that one time you ran and were just like, I don't know if I'm going back, or did you go the next day, or what was kind of your progression like?
I think what we do on Twitter is really ingenious, and I don't even know if it has the consequences we wanted to have, but maybe it's some vanity too. But I wanted to go back and say, instead of F and G, say my name, and be on that video. So I knew I was coming back. I skipped the farm. That was the only side on Friday at the time, because literally my thighs, I could barely walk on the stairs.
Yeah.
But I did show up at the pit on Saturday, and I did a ruck with Boiling Point before, and then Swiper kicked our butts for about an hour at the pit. And so that one was almost more of a struggle to get through because I was so beat up from Thursday.
Yeah.
But then from there, I just was like, 3 times a week, and that quickly became 4 times a week. So unless I'm traveling, I've been pretty consistent 4 to 5 days a week if I'm in town ever since.
Yeah, I love it. And Boiling Point's a name I haven't heard in a while. We need to get him back out. Or did he move?
I love it. No, I see him randomly in Cillian, at an event or something. So I'm like, hey, we're going to see you. But
yeah,
you must have some things going on.
Sure. Well, curious on that note, so it sounds like you kind of got into rucking, or maybe identified rucking as an opportunity. Did you start pre-running or Smurf, all that sort of stuff? I mean, how long did it take before you were really into some of the super early stuff?
Yeah, true story. That's the one and only time I've ever been on a ruck.
Oh, okay. Nice.
I felt like I needed to warm my legs, and he threw it out there that he was doing it. So It was good. But I know that I should. I know there's value in it. A lot of second F there too.
Mm-hmm.
No, it really took me a while to start doing normal pre-runs. I thought those guys were crazy. That early in those many miles before you get beat up at a workout. So what happened though, and I've told this story to a few guys that I've tried to recruit to the Love Run, is we had something called like the 2 mile crew. We kind of coined ourselves, and there was a few of us that Chernobyl when we started, and Squeaky, and a handful of guys that would just prefer doing these 2 mile routes, less intimidating. You have more time. So we created one at there was definitely one at Sanitarium. Obviously, the steel mill had one, but 2 or 3 different options every week just to get a couple miles in without the pressure of trying to keep up with Swiper or fun dip and double dip.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty intimidating when you don't know what your pace is. I had no idea what my pace was. Yeah, I guessed it was around 9.5. But that Love Run was really a catalyst for me and others. I've seen a lot of guys start that way, and next thing you know, they're super fast. Boss Hog's a great example of that. Start off the Love Run, and now the dude's running 7-minute miles. But you start doing 2 miles, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that wasn't enough. And you start doing a loop around the lake after that, and then next thing you know, I'm doing more and more pre-runs. And now when I post, I usually pre-run. It's one of those things where you kind of feel like did I work out enough if I was getting a pre-run?
Right.
I've gotten to that level of hell. Or goodness, I'm not sure what we want to talk.
Yeah.
I still don't really like running at all. I just know I need the cardio.
So on this kind of idea with the Love Run, because I love that you created that for guys, right? Just recognizing like, hey, we're not all at the same spot, but we do, like, there's still some guys that want to run, right? A little bit, right? What are your thoughts on this? Because I think like sometimes we create that stuff, and then the guys that it was serving, like you said, they're like, well, I can do the full pre-run now, right? And then like, is there still a group of guys that are keeping that going, or how's that been going? Do you know at all?
Yeah, and I won't take all the credit. Duracell was a big part of that too. Kind of him and I, because I was just a steel mill loyalist, love the steel mill, and he doesn't love to run long distances either. So, he was a part of that, creating that route. But I was that was my jam. I love that. It's super flat. It's really easy. It's a good warm up for a lifting site. You get 2 10-minute pace miles and then lift. So great, just a great morning. So I was pretty committed to it. And then when I took the flag at Steel Mill, during my when accepting the flag, I told everyone like I'm committed to being here every Thursday at 5:05. That's our start time,
Hmm.
5:05,
Yeah.
for the love run. And so I think it just takes, because a lot of guys came in and now are accelerating their way faster. So, but they knew I was there, and so I had some regulars that would show up most of the time, and then some random guys would pop in. Even sometimes some really good runners that just wanted an easier 2 miles.
Hmm.
So, and even now, I think Rooney's kind of taken that flag too. That he's coming. He didn't do it a lot, but now he's showing up to it. And maybe it's just me. I still feel like I want to keep that going because I see the value in it.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of okay runners or beginner runners really kind of turn into great runners. D2 is probably the latest example of that. Someone that all of a sudden is running super fast with long distances. So I think that there's a place for it, and I'll keep doing it as long as people want to show up. But I think in general, it just takes someone kind of committed to this is important and this is the why behind it's important. And so I'm going to just kind of take the lead, and unless someone else wants to kind of take it from me.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do that now. We're kind of teasing a couple of guys about leading that run every week, whether they show up or not. It doesn't really matter,
Hmm.
but just trying to keep that. And I think maybe that's something we could do at other sites too. Because as far as I know, it's like kind of the only one we promote on the pre-blast that this run is the love run is 2.14. And that's how it got its name. If people are like, why do you guys call it that? February 14th, the love run.
Yeah.
And so it's fun when you finish it and your watch is exactly at 2.14. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's so cool. And it takes a guy to recognize like this is important for our newer guys. Right. And so maybe you do sacrifice some miles or a pace one day a week, but I think to make that commitment to the newer guys that are maybe intimidated by the traditional pre-run. I know we got the the tank trot, right? That Tea Party does. I think there's some intention there. I hear rumblings of maybe the combine doing like a tractor trot, but I think we're starting to get more aware, right? That some of our packs want to run, they just don't want to run the traditional miles and pace of the pre-run, which is awesome because that's how we keep giving this thing away. But in terms of your first F journey, where are you at today? Do you feel like you've kind of achieved some of your goals from a fitness standpoint? Are you at the weight you want to be, or are you running as fast? Your abs are showing in the mirror the way you want them to, all that sort of stuff.
just shredded.
Yeah.
I would say about a year ago this time, might have been in the best shape I'd been in, if not ever, since high school, junior year maybe.
Okay.
Right now, I'm falling off a little. I'm still trying to get back from all the traveling. My last job, I was on the road every week, and so there was no consistency in my diet or my exercise routine.
Mm-hmm.
The diet was probably the biggest problem. So I'm almost back there. I ran a really good clip at Sanitarium the other day, and getting it back, probably a little 5, 6, 7 pounds heavier than I want to be. But no, it's been great. Been able to, just that's what I love about F3. It's the only fitness routine I've done for any length like this long, for sure. And so, no, I feel good.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's funny. I joke about the, your abs showing. And I think like you get to this point where you realize like, it's not about that, right? It's about just being healthy and kind of longevity, right? How can we live healthier and be there for our families? And, I think the queen or the diet part has always been the challenge for me, is like, I just have a hard time being consistent, but anyway,
Yeah, I mean, I like food too much. It's like I love food and I love to have some drinks, and so I was like, if I was really strict, I could probably get to a great weight. But
yeah,
I also want to enjoy the find the things in life and go to nice dinners. And
yep.
But as long as the belly doesn't go over the belt and the wife's not complaining.
Yeah. Well, even Jean-Claude likes his gummy bears, right? So we all got our vice. Thinking about the second F piece, you mentioned a couple guys that you knew right when you started. Talk us through kind of how you went about building relationships or just kind of getting to know some of the guys. I guess I would be curious, when you showed up, were there more guys that you knew from growing up or just from being around town?
Not necessarily from growing up, but a lot of parish St. Columkille dads,
Oh, yeah.
Girl Dad, and there's a lot of other ones that, and then they started coming in more and more like Stranglehold. So there's this kind of almost like not really a shield lock, but like a lot of St. Columkille dads that we see each other at all these events. So Ray-Ban, and it's fun to kind of have that group, but not a ton of guys I knew from growing up. It's funny, I knew some like heavy hitters like Safe Ride. I knew Big One really well, so it would be fun to go to like Douglas County and see Dirty Bird or some of these guys that I hadn't seen in forever. And they were so happy that I was in the group now.
Yeah.
They had been doing it for a while. So that was always, again, it was just so cool the guys I looked up to and was friends with, and see they're doing this too. It's like, it just reaffirmed like there's good guys, high impact people here. The new relationship, it's just grown. I mean, Sarpy is like its own little, obviously it's our own sector, but every sector is special. But Sarpy has a swagger, and I think that we're all really close knit. I think the WhatsApp channel plays a part in that we kind of have. That's a little bit separate. A lot of banter and second F going on there. Obviously, Ferry Nectar was a big one when we started that to bring guys for second F, but. Never really had like a shield lock per se, but there's just so many guys that, I love to see and can reach out to anytime for help or just for advice. There's been a few guys that have mentored me, and other guys that I just love to just randomly BS with on a text message. So
Yeah.
I'm a person that's really hasn't had a difficult time making friends and putting myself out there, self-deprecating to, so people know that I'm approachable, but it's been super fun to get to know all these guys because everyone's from the 24-year-old to the 55-year-old. Everyone's got a story to tell, and it's super interesting. So
yeah. How'd you know like Big One and Dirty Bird and Safe Ride? How'd you know those guys?
Yeah, Safe Ride and I went to school together at Gross and then Creighton, and then just Creighton connection. Dirty Bird and I were actually we lived in a house together sophomore year for a couple of years. So just great dude. But I didn't even know he was in it. I saw him on a name around. I'm like, you got to be kidding. So,
yeah.
It's always a pleasure to see him running around. Then I worked with Manelli or Roadhouse and Waytime too. So that was really cool. A couple other well-respected guys in the group that I got to know pretty well early in my journey too. So it just kept getting reaffirmed for me how great the guys were in this group.
Yeah. And the rumor, at least from Almost Famous, was that Waytime had like so much F3 gear in his office that he couldn't even find his desk. Can you validate that? Was that true? Or
I mean, it's ridiculous. He had like 4 flags in there, pictures of himself. I think there was a statue he had made. No, I didn't notice. I'm sure he had something, and I think I actually didn't know Almost Famous worked at the same place. He must have left right before I started. I have never met him, but
yeah,
Chad would recruit quite a bit. Every man that worked in that building, I'm sure, had been talked to about F3.
Right, for sure. No, I love it, and I think it's just it's cool to just like, as big as the group gets or as big as the city gets, right? It's like it's still a small town, right? And there's so many connections. But would be curious. You mentioned Ferry Nectar in there, and I think one of the things I would just be curious your thoughts for guys that maybe haven't participated in a second F sort of happy hour type event. Give us your thoughts on that. What's that like? What would you say to a guy that's maybe on the fence about going to one of those?
Yeah. Ferry Nectar was, I don't know if that was born out of my love for fellowship or beer. We did it one Friday, and I'm like, we should do this on a regular thing or a regular clip. And then it was just randomly thrown out there like on a Thursday or something. I'm like, let's just make this every Friday. And so it was unofficial. And then the jokes, who is it? High Life and Chernobyl were really big about, we need to create a Twitter account. You take over, you're the site Q, quote unquote. So we've had a lot of fun with like creating that Twitter account. And, I even got in a little trouble with the legal of F3 about the banner we had and the name we were using. So I actually went to the bar and I'm like, hey, listen, here's our deal. Is this okay? And they thought it was hilarious. So we got permission to use the name Ferry Nectar and all that. So for those that don't know, it's just a second F every Friday at Cross Drain Brewery. And we just made it an every Friday thing. some days there's 2 people, some days there's 10. So
Yeah.
but it's just always there. And so we'll throw it out on WhatsApp, and people will. There's almost always at least 4 or 5 guys there. But I just think it's great. I mean, there's a handful of guys. You mentioned John Claude before, that just come and grab a soda. They have good root beer there, and so it's on the way home and have a root beer and just hang out with the guys. You don't have to love IPAs to do it. I think I've heard you mention that you need to get to a couple of those. There's good root beer everywhere, my man.
Right.
But I think it's just so great to see everybody outside the gloom, especially in the wintertime. We can see what they really look like without all the gear on. But I've been big into that, and I was going every Friday for a long time until I could switch jobs. But we're still going, and I think it's been a good piece of what we do down in Sarpy.
Yeah, I love it. To me, it's just you're creating one more like touch point with this really great group of guys, right? It's just like a workout, right? It doesn't really even matter who shows up. There's going to be some quality men there, and maybe you're going through something that happened at work that day and you need a place to share it or whatever, right? You've got this space where you can go and connect, which is cool. I just need to get permission from the M for me to.
It was when we first started. It was funny. I was like asking, like, "Are you going to go?" I'm like, "All right, you're leading today." And like pre-bass would be like typical F1 first half, like Chernobyl on the queue. Come get your 20-ounce curls in. So
pre-run.
That's a little bit. The Twitter game has fallen off a little bit, but
yeah.
We still have a lot of fun.
I feel like I see some where they have there's a pre-run and then the main thing or whatever.
Yeah, the pre-run. The place opens at 3, so that's a pre-run, and then 3:30 is the pre-run, and then 4 is the second.
Nice, I love it. Well, curious. The other kind of topic we like to touch on in the second F piece, kind of like relationships more broadly, like thinking about your M and your 2.0s, and you mentioned some mentoring relationships. So just curious, as you think about the last few years, what's been your experience or any growth or improvements in some of those other relationships?
Yeah. When thinking about the Concentrica, the wife and the children, I think the kids for sure have seen one of my motivations with getting out of bed every day is like, I want to wake the kids up with some energy and some excitement. And so trying to do that when you roll out of bed 5 minutes before them is difficult. But I come home after 2 hours of working out and they just get so annoyed with my energy level. And so, but I think secretly they kind of like the dad's kind of crazy in the morning, and they've been to a couple 2 of them have been to workouts. So I think they love it. They think it's funny. Every time we buy Hawaiian sweet rolls, they have a good time with that. The journey, the relationship with your M is it's always just kind of ups and downs a little bit, like where it's obviously you get in those spots where you're feeling really good about yourself and you feel like you're doing the right things. And then it's easy for us to, my issue is being a good communicator. I'm great at it at work, but I, kind of will tend to not try to upset people at home. And so, wait to talk about things. And so it's an ongoing thing for me. So she sees the value in what we do in the fitness part and knows that it's important to me. So has been supportive of it. And so it's just on me to really continue to work on making sure that the work we're doing in F3 Beyond Fitness is that she's getting some of those dividends, that there's a return for her as well, because, it can be time consuming sometimes, whether you're showing up a little bit later than you would to get the kids out the door and stuff like that. But,
yeah. Oh yeah, I hear you. Once school started, I had to make sure I was watching my clock. Right, it's summertime is nice. You stay a little longer for coffee, but once school, if you're a part of that morning school routine, I get the side eye every once in a while if I'm getting home 7:40, or so, and she's like, "Hey, where you been?" Unless I have donuts, then that seems to maybe kind of wash it.
It's always a good move. If I bring home a latte, she's, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, I love it. Talk us through some of the mentoring relationships that you found through the group.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret to the boys in Sarpy because I talk about it during COTs, but I've had a really crazy 3 years, basically ever since I started F3. I've had 4 or 5 different jobs in 3 years time period. Had a job when I started F3, started working for Homestead. We all know that what happened there, the big acquisition. So we lost our job. Thought I found something else that didn't work. And then I had my most recent job that I was doing for a while. Loved the actual work, but it's too much travel, and now I'm here. So literally within like 4 or 5 jobs in a 3-year time period. So there, as you know, like, or maybe you don't know, the job changes and the mental game that is, whether it's just like your own confidence, like you can be fired alongside 100 people, but inevitably there's like some layer of like self doubt, like why wasn't I saved or something like so. You go through that, like, even though you're telling yourself the right things, it's inevitable. We're all a little bit self-conscious and, in that way. So mentally it was tough. And so I had a lot of good conversations, and I called them out at my flag pass, like the KOAs and John Cloud's Firewalkers of the world were just, they'd ask me questions and I would ask them what they thought or for advice. And that's been so great to have people like that. Of course, Baby Shark, my best boy, to be able to talk to him, but a lot of good people that I didn't know a couple of years ago were kind of helping me through some tough times, which has been just super great. And I feel like I've paid that back in some respects, and I'm here to do whatever I can for someone I haven't met yet, or someone in the group that I'm really good at job interviews now. I keep getting jobs. So I must be doing something right.
Right.
I just gotta stay with it.
Oh, that's funny. When I hear you talk about that, one of the things that I don't know, at least that comes to mind for me is like you have some level of security in who you are as a man and what you're looking for, what you're good at, right? And so, I think I'm someone that has maybe put too much security or identity in my job, and so then that sort of creates a little bit of fear to like stay even when I think or desire to leave. So I think you having the courage to move on, right, when, like you said, hey, too much travel, that's not working for my family, I gotta find something else. And so I think, yeah, I don't know, it's interesting that like how we as men connect our like that confidence comes from work a lot of times, right? And yeah, I don't know the answer there, but I think you just sharing that story is helpful for me to hear for sure.
I think part of it, ironically, I was a psychology major and worked in mental and behavior health for a long time, and I pivoted my career. I thought I wanted to be a therapist and thought I wanted to work in that space, and I just got burned out after a while, but it just gave me such good perspective and outlook on life in a lot of ways. Just seeing people struggle with mental illness or addiction, and just kind of this idea of like, whatever I'm going through, oh my gosh, it could be so much worse and so much more difficult. And so I did some travels to Dominican Republic and Africa. I was fortunate enough so at a young formative age and going through university, I was able to like gain some great perspective. And so, and I'm a really big perspective guy in general. And so I think like it's only a matter of time. Things will get better when things are bad. Keep doing the right things. It's just kind of having an attitude like it could be worse. I mean, not to diminish the things that we do go through, because the struggle is real, but like I know I can get through it because I've been through a lot before. And so I think that mentality can drive my own crazy sometimes.
I bet. Yeah.
Because I just don't get too worried. Like I'll get worried like anyone, but like I've been blessed and not really struggle with anxiety. And I know that's a blessing because I know anyone is, susceptible to that.
Yeah.
But luckily I don't. And so I think that helps quite a bit too.
Heck yeah. I love that. I appreciate you sharing that. I think that's, I've over the years, right, some guys will remember early on wait time, lost a job, and watching him go through that, but just maintain some consistency and contentment and sort of this idea of like, life is not easy, right? And so things happen and we work through it. Sometimes we have to lean on others more than other times. And yeah, it's cool just to hear. Appreciate you sharing that. Curious a little bit of what I'm kind of hearing too, maybe as a nice segue into the third F, and just kind of how maybe share with us like what's been your journey from a faith perspective, and maybe would be curious how does that faith help in times of uncertainty?
So yeah, ready for this question, but not, I guess. typical story, like I've heard a lot on this podcast, where I grew up Catholic. I was in Catholic school from kindergarten through Creighton University, gross high in between there. And so I've taken a lot of theology courses and spent a lot of time reading the Bible and hearing people talk to me about the Christian religion and Catholicism. And I've never been really, even with all the drama that's going on with the church, with the scandals, I've never really been taken away from it, because my outlook was always, this faith-based community is like the source of all my best friends. And I have so much time in these communities at Gross and at St. Columkille that we're doing good things here. You know, like politically, whatever it is with the church or with the government, it's always going to be a mess a little bit, right? And so, like, at the core, like what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish is really good. So I've never really been too cynical about organized religion, where I know a lot of people have been. You know, like that's me, half glass full guy. But I've also had some really interesting experiences with other religions and doing some traveling, and I've had times where I was completely agnostic and like not an atheist, but just like, I don't know, and so I'm not going to kind of grab on any certain religion and call it to be truth, because from the Native Americans to people in an island off the Caribbean that have never been exposed to JC or Jesus, how would they not be saved? So I think at this point, maybe I'm going way out there, but I think Catholicism and Christianity is the way I choose to follow God, or to listen to these messages. There's definitely something bigger than ourselves, is what I believe. So I think and I've felt that a few times in my life. There's 3 or 4 instances in my life where I felt something, whether that was at a retreat or in nature, where it just wasn't kind of this world, or just something that just felt a little like there's a presence. And so knowing that, feeling that a few times, and just keeping an open mind too at the same time. Like, I hope I'm getting it right, but I'm not going to condemn anyone else's way they want to go about following their God or what they do. And what we do in F3 is also just quite astonishing too, what it can do for men in the sense of becoming a religion of sorts, because it's all about just growing and being better. So if that's what you want to subscribe to, that's better than most.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Man, I love that. And it is a common story, right? Like, sort of that, grew up in this religion, and, I think you went to a Catholic high school and then a Jesuit college, right? So maybe had more of that. I love that you shared kind of this time where you maybe were agnostic. I think that my big thing for guys is, like, don't stop searching, right? Like it's, like, believe what you want to believe, or call it what you want to call it, but, like, keep searching for what that higher power might look like to you. And I love that it sounds like you've done that. What's it like to love your dentist? Well, you're about to find out, where healthy smiles go beyond your teeth. No drilling, no needles, and no anxiety. Relax. It's Omaha Laser Dentistry. Welcome to better. At Omaha Laser Dentistry, Dr. Bullenparty uses the Solea laser, a CO2 laser that's used in all of his day-to-day patient care. He provides thorough exams, assessments, and treatments for things like snoring, tethered tissue, and extractions like wisdom teeth, as well as other surgeries. Check him out today at omahalaserdentistry.com. Discounts may be available for F3 Omaha members. I'm curious, as you think about some of those moments, are there any that pop out that you would be willing to share? I don't know.
Yeah, sure. I was on a Dominican Republic on a retreat, but it was during alone time during that retreat, where we were in these beautiful mountain villages in the Dominican, and we just got done with this prayer circle, and so that room itself felt really spiritual. And then it was off by yourself to be alone and journal and take an hour. It was take an hour with nothing but your journal, and just sitting there on that hill that one day. It was, pretty remarkable, kind of what washed over me in that moment, this beautiful scenery. And then another time I was at a Christian leadership camp, and I think I was a freshman or sophomore. There was like some sort of blessing in that room, where we all were in this circle. It was completely quiet, and then someone was, so that same thing, that same feeling kind of washed over, I'm sure not just me, but everyone in that space. And so it's just kind of this idea, like, holy cow, like, And the cynic could be like, well, there's just, your body's susceptible. There's a lot of emotion. And so your body's natural reaction or anatomically or physiologically, but I don't know. We can feel that in a group or by yourself. And
Mhm.
for me, that confirms some ideas that, yeah, you get those special moments where you can feel that presence of something greater.
Yeah, man, I love that. I had a similar experience at the impact retreat that F3 does, and it was basically very similar setup, right? It was like we had spent the morning, in some prayer and talking about some things, and then it was go spend an hour, no technology, just you and a notebook if that's what you want to take. And yeah, I just remember totally getting lost by myself, and then sort of this like, I don't know, just some sort of encounter or something that just and it's hard to explain, those moments, but definitely would agree with you. Yeah, somehow being out in nature, definitely separating from technology, those seem to be some key components to finding that higher power.
Yeah, and having yourself open to it too, right?
Hmm.
If you're just gonna you just ran a couple miles away thinking about work and then going out in nature, but
Yeah.
it's not no it's a direct correlation with like being in that moment, opening up yourself to the opportunity, and then when you're by yourself, really in your thoughts then. So yeah, pretty cool stuff in that way.
Yeah.
So my journey, I'm a practicing Catholic in the sense that like I'm just practicing. I have nothing figured out. I'm just going to continue to do my best to try and put my kids in a place where they're learning the right things
Yeah.
from us as parents, and then from the faith community as well.
I love it.
The,
Hey,
the Ten Commandments are a great place to start, in my opinion. So
yeah. Well, and I forgot to ask this earlier, but what do your kids think about F3 other than dad coming home with a lot of energy? Is it like weird for them, or what's their feedback?
no, I don't know if they really grasp the whole concept. I think they just know, I've always worked out. So I think they think it's cool. Two of the younger ones have been there. They always want to go back, especially the Halloween one because they know they get candy. Um, but I think they just think it's fun. They think the names are funny. It's funny when I see a random him out in the wild, and I'm like this. Shingles that just came over to my house because he's helping me with my roof. I'm like, this is my friend Chris. I call him Shingles
Yeah.
though.
That's fun.
So I actually do try to know everyone's first name in those situations because
Hmm.
my favorite story is like when I first met Greg Skids, his wife. She introduced herself as Mrs. Skids,
Oh,
and I just thought that was so hilarious that she had the personality that would be like to just call herself Mrs. Skids.
yeah.
It's always funny that way. But no, they love it. I think they think it's cool to watch their dad make fitness be a priority.
Yeah. Absolutely. What about kind of the other side of third F? We talk about like faith from a maybe belief or higher power perspective, but there's also like the community service aspect. Have you had a chance to get out and do some of those activities?
No, and I need to. And I think that's just one of those situations of time, my availability, kind of the during my studies and creating like this, we had this idea of preferential option for the poor, like doing things for that population. And so I was active for a while, and then you fall out of it. And F3 gives us those opportunities, but for me, it's just time constrictions, really. And so, I'll give blood and those types of things. And I imagine as my schedules loosens up, I'll be more involved. But I think that some regions, and I've been to a lot of different regions, you don't really hear of the third F, and I think that's part of what makes Omaha so special is that that's a big part of what we do, and we make it a point
Hmm.
to think of new ways to give back. So
Yeah. Where are you at on the bloodletting? Like isn't there typically like who's the fastest? Where are you at? Have you won that at all? Or
slow, man. I I have no problem with the needle, but like the whole pumping to try and make it go faster, I'm like, no, I'm just gonna sit here. So I think people are really squeezing that. So I'm towards the back of the bus. I'm not the six, but close because I just kind of let it happen naturally.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's how I am too. I think a lot of it depends on what you're doing before. If you're completely exhausted, and
Yeah, that's true too.
I love it. Well, we'd love to get your thoughts too. Our mission statement, right, is really about invigorating male community leadership, and so we try to do give you opportunities, right, to lead. So VQs and then taking over a flag. Do you remember your VQ at all?
Absolutely, yeah. I have one of those memories. I remember like every detail of it. So at the sanitarium. It was funny because I asked Knobs, who was psych at the time, if I was ready to leave. He's like, "Oh yeah, you can do it this day," and it was like 2 months out. I'm like, oh man. So sanitarium is the spot for VQs in Papillion. No, I did it there. Practiced all the greeting, all the open. Sorry, the night before. I slept fine, but I definitely practiced. I knew I was ready. Um, and I think it was a good workout. It had a theme. You know, I shared a message similar to what I shared with you about why I started F3. Uh, and it was totally had that VQ high for the rest of that day.
Mm-hmm.
So that was so much fun. And then from there, yeah, I would queue at least once a month. Yeah, I think like a lot of packs, like after that first VQ, like you're on that queue schedule like twice a week.
Yeah, for sure.
Every week, and then you're like, maybe I should let some other guys take, or that self conscious feeling of they don't want me anymore, kind of
Right.
thing. So
Yeah.
no, so I've been and now after being in 3 years, it's like just queue once a month because at least you're giving back. So once or twice a month, I'll still get on the queue.
Yeah. What when did you first kind of get introduced to the weights or the coupon workout? Like when did that start becoming part of your routine? As soon as it launched or
Yeah.
Okay.
I was so excited for the steel mill because I love Battlefield and I feel bad I don't go there anymore. It's a great site, obviously, but I was a lifter for most of my life, and so the idea of bringing heavy metal to Sarpy County was pretty cool. And me and High Life were buddies, and so I was at both pop ups and at the launch, and just came my Thursday routine. I wasn't a runner yet, and I know how to lift weights, so I was pretty much there every Thursday for that first year or so.
Nice.
And the January, it sucks for weightlifting workouts. It's like you're holding metal weights. It's 0 degrees out. You're not moving. So it takes real dedication to go to those lifting sites in the middle of the winter.
Yeah. Well, what was it like taking the flag at Steel Mill?
Great. It's funny. I had an opportunity to take a site earlier, and it wasn't the right day of the week, and so. And then I kind of got self-conscious, like, am I blackballed now since I said no? So it's ironically, I love Steel Mill, and Baby Shark was at Sandlot. I'm like, how cool would that be if we could lead the same spot, the same, that Howard Park area at the same time. So I actually approached Urso. I called him about the idea, and he goes, "You're kidding me." And he's like, "I meant to talk to you this morning during the love run, but you were running too fast for me. So like, our heads are in the same space. Like he was about to ask me, and I reached out to him. So it just worked out perfectly. Like he knew I loved the site and cared a lot about it, and he knew how begrudgingly he gave up that flag, but so I think he felt comfortable because he knew how dedicated I was to Steel Mill and letting that happen. And God, I love it. My story's weird because I switched jobs halfway through, so I'm a somewhere psych where I was never there. There was probably 8 weeks in a row at one stretch where I wasn't at my own site.
No.
And so I did all the things I was supposed to do. I filled the schedule. I did the pre-blast, post-blast, all those things. So it didn't skip a beat that way, but I think Rooney kind of took over that site way before he got the flag because he was always there. And I didn't, I felt bad about it, but at the same time, what are you going to do? It's life. I didn't plan on switching jobs, and I'm in Wisconsin. Obviously, I can't be at Howard Park this morning. So, but a little bit of me feels like I got robbed of 6 months of being a psych Q. That's a pretty special time, I think, in your F3 journey. But that's okay. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
And,
well, you could do it again. You could be, you could find a different site and be psych Q there, right?
Yeah. Sure. I don't know if people want that.
Yeah, I love just your vulnerability there, and I know you're not alone. I'm curious, how did you navigate that? Like when you got this new job and found out, okay, I'm going to be traveling. Did you connect with Rooney and kind of establish like, hey, I need somebody to step up, or how did you navigate that?
No, I didn't really. It kind of was a slow crawl where it was like I'd miss 1 or 2, but I'd get the other 2 weeks, and then it was just really because it was kind of over the holiday season. And then once like March started, it was pretty much you're gone every week. And so what I was trying to do was pass the flag early, but I was gone every Thursday. And so like I'm like, Shrew, KOA, like I'll pass it on a Saturday. Let's have a special like steel mill pass on it. And they're like, no. And so like it ended up being a year of me having the flag when I tried to pass that thing in like May
Mm-hmm.
and April, just because I felt like, there should be a leader that's actually going to be here.
Yeah.
Um, the thing that's so funny to me is that the week after I passed the flag, I accepted a job where I'm currently at now.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm there every Thursday. So
Yeah, the
it's,
irony. Yeah,
it's
Sky Q he's a funny God is funny
that's funny.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of funny, I don't know if you have any words you would share about Rooney, but man, that shovel pass when he read that speech, I still tell guys about how funny that was. I always pictured him to be more of a serious guy, but I don't know.
It's so Rooney. It's perfect. Like that is his personality and his sense of humor and that VQ or that shovel flag speech. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's how his jokes are like that. He's just such a funny dude. And it takes a while to kind of, for me at least, to get to know him because he's kind of quiet and he's got that awesome guy, super funny.
Mm-hmm.
Even just look at his pre-bass and post, always poking fun at someone a little bit, but in a loving way.
Yeah.
So he was Mr. He like never missed steel mill. So it's a pretty obvious choice. I just didn't know. I knew he'd been asked before. Like, why wouldn't Rooney be? He had been in F3 6 months longer than I had. Why hadn't he had an opportunity? So I knew he had been asked, but for some reason turned it down. And so I was like, I had a guy picked out. I'm like, but I have to pick out. I have to ask Rooney first.
Yep.
Like, he's like, yeah. I think I can do Thursday. I'm like, really? All right, so, you sure? He's like, I'm 90% sure. I'm like, oh, come on. It's like, oh,
That's funny. I love it. Well, I'm curious if you have any, as you're thinking about your time as a site Q and even just navigating through a challenge like that, any advice that you have for other site Qs or guys that are leading a site?
I mean, when I was like you, I did my best to not have myself on the queue, and I don't know if that's good advice or not. I was trying to find as many unique individuals to lead as possible. So I think that's always fun. Like just try to add, people from parts of Omaha that aren't in your sector. I was fortunate enough to get. I don't know if big ones ever come down to Bennett Steel Mill, but I got him down there. So kind of reach outside your comfort zone and reach out to people that you wouldn't normally think would want to queue there. Because as soon as you ask, people will say yes most of the time. And so I think don't be afraid to just kind of get out there and find some unique people to queue your site. And don't be too hard on yourself. If you can't be there, I guess would be advice because you can't be any worse than I was as far as attendance at your own site. So the most important thing is just keep that schedule full and keep the energy high when you're there. Every site has its own personality, and try to stay true to that with the way you lead. Picking up the six wasn't a big deal at Steel Mill because a lot of times we aren't moving, right? And so it was just more about effort as far as kind of easy to coast on a lifting site. So as a site, you really put in that effort. So whatever that personality and energy is at your site, bring that energy every week.
Heck yeah. I love it. I think that's great advice. I think you're right. It can, any site can really go, kind of get stale, right? Or just kind of, and you want guys to show up and be excited and kind of keep things going. And I love that for the site Qs to be thinking about just kind of how do you manage the energy at your site and keep that kind of site identity going. I love it. Well, I think the other thing we want to get from you is just, where are you at today? Where do you need prayers or encouragement, or if we see out there anything that we should encourage you on?
No, I'm in a good space now. I think it was some tough times with traveling and making sure the relationships at home are good when you're not there half the time. Now that I've moved on from that role, um, my life's gotten a lot easier that way. But I can still use thoughts and prayers just in general for just, and I think everyone, really could just the health of your family, the health of you physically, and that we continue to kind of get better and evolve together and in a healthy way. Relationships are tricky, and I think that we can always use each other's support without and judgment-free support too. So,
Hmm. For sure.
um,
Yeah. Love that. Judgment-free support. Definitely. I love that. And thoughts and prayers for family for sure. Well, I definitely want to just thank you for your time and your story today. I think, just thinking about your journey and, so many guys, we all share very similar ups and downs and things that have gone on in life. And I think we learn so much from each other. So just appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing some of those things that have happened over the last few years. It's been great.
my pleasure,
We'll
Blake. Yeah.
we'll do a little name-orama here. I'll start us off. Brandon Flehardy, 38, The Plague.
Blake. Joseph for 43, sweet roll.
Sweet roll, Hawaiian style, and you've got the little it's hang loose, right, or hang 10.
Yeah, I do that sometimes, but yeah, me and Longboard like to hang 10, hang loose a little bit.
I love it. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you, brother. Have a great rest of your day.
All right, thank you. Bye.